Okay, listeners, those of you that have been rocking with me on this journey know that I did not change overnight. But at some point, I realized people were interacting with me like I hadn't changed at all. Like they were still meeting a version of me that I had already outgrown. And that's when it hit me. Just because you've done the internal work doesn't mean the outside world updates with you. Hey, it's me, Lo, and welcome back to Lo Unmuted. This is season one, Unmuted, a return to self, where I share my journey of becoming the small, quiet decisions, the lessons, and the freedom that comes from aligning your life with who you truly are. If you're ready to step away from what no longer serves you and live life on your own terms, well, you're in the right spot. Okay, so listeners, for me, one of the most unexpected parts of this journey has been learning how to just exist. Exist as a different version of myself around people who remember who I used to be. Because for a long time, I was very clear in my roles. I was the one who handled things, the one who showed up, the one who could be counted on no matter what. There was a way that people saw me, a way they interacted with me, and a way they expected me to respond. And I met those expectations for years. But when I started changing, when I started slowing down, when I stopped performing in some ways, those expectations, well, they didn't disappear. People still reached for the same version of me. The one who said yes, the one who pushed through, the one who would prioritize everything and everyone else. And for a moment, I found myself slipping back into that. Responding the way that I used to, agreeing the way that I used to, showing up in ways that I didn't feel aligned anymore. And I was doing it, but I wasn't doing it because I wanted to. I was doing it because it was familiar, because it was expected. And that's when I had to make a decision. Am I going to continue being who people remember, or am I going to honor who I am now? And I learned this lesson in a very real way. So I had a friend, and we'd been friends for decades. We had gone through a lot of life together: marriage, children, divorce, growth. We were there for each other for so many different seasons. And during the time I was really becoming, really changing, I started approaching life differently, even in how I wanted to date. So I was talking to this guy and I wanted to have a conversation with him, something that reflected the woman I was becoming. I wanted to approach it with a level of softness, but also clarity. I wanted to respect myself and I wanted to respect him as well. So I reached out to her and I asked her for her advice. I even told her, take your time with it, think about it, talk it through, because I really wanted a thoughtful response. Well, the next day she called and she was really excited. She said she had been thinking about it and even lost a little bit of sleep because she really wanted to give me something that would help. And I was ready, I was open. But when she gave me her answer, it didn't align with who I was anymore. It was something my old self might have accepted, and understood. I might have even laughed at it. But this version of me, the version that I was becoming, I just couldn't receive it. And in that moment, I didn't say much, but something definitely shifted inside of me because I realized she was responding to who I used to be, not who I was now. And I don't think she was wrong. I think she just met me at a version of me that she remembered. But here's where it got real for me. The next time we spoke, I addressed it. But I didn't address it as the woman I was becoming. I addressed it as the woman she remembered. Very direct, sharp, unfiltered. The way I used to communicate before I started doing this work. And when I got off the phone, I didn't feel good about it because I knew that wasn't who I was anymore. But I also understood something in that moment, that was the only version of me that she recognized. And I knew that conversation was the end of our friendship. Not because of what was said, but because we were no longer meeting each other in the same place. And to be honest, it was hard, but it was also clear. Because what I have come to understand is this: people will always try to meet the version of you that they remember. Not because they're trying to hold you back, but because that's the version that they know. And it's not their responsibility to keep up with your growth, it's yours. Which means sometimes you have to respond differently. Sometimes you have to say no when you used to say yes. Sometimes you have to pause when you're used to reacting. Sometimes you have to choose yourself when you would have chosen obligation. And sometimes you have to accept that certain connections won't continue into the next version of you. And that doesn't make anyone wrong. It just means you've grown. Now, I'm not explaining myself in the way I used to. I'm not overextending myself to maintain an image. I'm not trying to prove that I'm still the same person because I'm not. And I'm okay with that. It doesn't mean that I don't care. It doesn't mean that I'm not present. It just means I'm more intentional. I'm more aware, more grounded in what actually feels right for me. And if I'm being honest, there's a level of peace that comes with that because I'm no longer trying to manage how I'm perceived. I'm simply showing up as I am and allowing that to be enough. So, listeners, if you're in a season where you've grown, where you've changed, where you're not responding the way you used to, and it feels uncomfortable, I want you to consider something. Are you trying to be understood or are you trying to be aligned? Because those are not always the same thing. And sometimes alignment requires you to let go of being fully understood by everyone. So, listeners, go ahead and sit with that this week. Thank you for being here with me, and I'll meet you right here next Wednesday. But until then, stay unmuted.